The concept of modern celebrity often feels fleeting and superficial, a series of brief moments captured in passing before being replaced by the next headline. Yet every once in a while, the global cultural landscape witnesses an alignment of stars so significant that it transcends the typical boundaries of entertainment and sports, capturing the collective imagination of millions across every continent. New York City, a sprawling metropolis accustomed to hosting the historic, the grand, and the utterly unforgettable, recently became the backdrop for an event that defied the usual expectations of public life. It was a gathering that promised to merge the absolute pinnacle of global pop music stardom with the grit and triumph of elite professional athletics, creating an atmosphere charged with anticipation long before the first guests even arrived at the venue. For months, speculation had been building, whispering through the corridors of media outlets and echoing across digital platforms, as observers tried to piece together how two of the most recognizable figures of the 21st century would celebrate a bond that had been analyzed, celebrated, and deeply admired by fans worldwide. This was not merely another high-profile gathering or a typical red carpet affair. It was a carefully guarded, deeply personal milestone designed to unfold within one of the most legendary arenas on Earth, a place more accustomed to roaring crowds and historic sporting triumphs than to the quiet, sacred exchange of lifelong promises. As the lights began to dim over Manhattan and the evening air grew crisp, the sheer scale of what was transpiring began to settle over the city, drawing the eyes of the world to a single iconic location where history was silently being rewritten in the key of genuine devotion. To understand the gravity of this specific evening, one must look back at the incredible parallel journeys that brought these two extraordinary individuals to this exact intersection in time. On one side stands a generational songwriting force, a woman who has spent nearly 2 decades transforming her personal reflections into the defining soundtrack for a global audience, breaking structural industry records and filling massive stadiums with an unparalleled emotional resonance. On the other side is an elite athlete whose physical prowess, charisma, and undeniable leadership have cemented his legacy as one of the most formidable and celebrated champions in the history of professional football. When their worlds first collided, it felt like a narrative straight out of a classic storybook, a perfect synchronization of art and sport that re-energized public interest and proved that genuine connection can still flourish under the harsh, unyielding glare of the international spotlight. As we continue to follow this unfolding story and explore the deeply personal details of how their paths officially converged in this spectacular celebration, we invite you to take a brief moment to become a permanent part of our community by subscribing to this channel, ensuring you never miss the deep dives and comprehensive reports we bring to you every single week. The journey of these two cultural icons reminds us that despite the overwhelming noise of fame and the constant scrutiny of the public eye, the human element always remains the most compelling force, drawing us in and making us invested in a story that feels simultaneously larger than life and beautifully ordinary. The venue chosen for this monumental occasion was none other than Madison Square Garden, a colossal arena synonymous with legendary concerts, epic athletic battles, and cultural milestones that define generations. Transforming an environment of such immense proportions, typically engineered to amplify the energy of tens of thousands of screaming fans, into a space that could harbor genuine intimacy was a logistical and creative feat of staggering complexity. Yet, as the doors opened to welcome approximately 1,000 carefully selected spectators, the vast expanse of the garden was miraculously reshaped into a deeply personal sanctuary, illuminated by soft, ambient lighting and adorned with an elegance that reflected the distinct personalities of the couple. The guest list itself was a spectacular tapestry of modern culture, featuring an array of Hollywood elite, chart-topping musical artists, legendary sports figures, and close personal confidants who had supported the couple throughout their respective rises to fame. Superstars, supermodels, iconic quarterbacks, and beloved actors mingled effortlessly with childhood neighbors and high school friends, creating a unique social fabric where the extraordinary met the deeply familiar. The atmosphere within the arena was thick, with a palpable sense of reverence and excitement, a shared understanding among all present that they were witnessing a rare fragment of history. A moment where the grandest stage in the world was being used not for performance, but for a profound declaration of love. Outside, the bustling streets of New York carried on with their usual frantic pace, completely unaware of the quiet tension and deep emotional current building inside the arena walls. Where the bride and groom were preparing to step forward and share something so vulnerable, It would leave an indelible mark on everyone fortunate enough to be in the room. As the final preparations were completed and the massive crowd settled into the ear seats, an expectant silence fell over Madison Square Garden, replacing the ambient chatter with a deep collective focus on the beautifully decorated altar. The sheer contrast of the setting was striking. A place that had witnessed iconic championship victories and historic musical performances was now reduced to a quiet, sacred stage for two people who, despite their monumental fame, were ultimately looking at each other simply as partners ready to embark on a shared future. Rumors had already begun to circulate among the inner circles and media insiders that the couple might have already legally formalized their bond in a private, quiet ceremony in Tennessee weeks prior, adding an additional layer of mystery and depth to the grand event unfolding in New York. Whether those whispers were true or merely part of the growing folklore surrounding their relationship, the emotional weight of this particular evening was undeniable, acting as a public and familial affirmation of a love story that had captured the world's attention for over a year. The stage was perfectly set, the star-studded audience sat in rapt anticipation, and the air was thick with the kind of genuine emotion that no amount of production or celebrity status could ever manufacture, signaling that the upcoming exchange of vows would be anything but ordinary, setting the foundation for an unforgettable narrative that would soon leave even the toughest individuals in the room completely overwhelmed by its sheer sincerity. The quiet stillness that descended upon Madison Square Garden quickly gave way to a wave of deep emotion as the centerpiece of the evening finally arrived, shifting the grand spectacle into a display of profound vulnerability that few could have anticipated from a couple of such immense global stature. When the time came for the exchange of vows, the global music icon stepped forward to deliver a deeply heartfelt 20-minute address to her partner, a speech that was meticulously crafted not for the massive audience watching in rapt attention, but directly for the soul of the man standing before her. This was not a standard, brief recitation of traditional promises. It was an expansive, beautifully detailed journey through time, a poetic exploration of character that illuminated exactly why an elite professional athlete had captured the heart of one of the world's most celebrated storytellers. In a revelation that instantly captivated everyone in attendance, she focused heavily on his formative years, drawing a vivid picture of the man he had been long before fame, fortune, and championship rings had redefined his public identity. She spoke eloquently of his high school days, a time when he was already established as the undisputed star athlete of his campus, possessed of the kind of social power and popularity that often isolates young sports stars from the rest of their peers. Yet, as she revealed to the deeply moved crowd, his character even then was defined by a rare and instinctive kindness that set him completely apart from the typical high school archetype. She shared specific, touching stories from his youth, highlighting how he would consciously choose to walk away from the elite social circles of the athletic elite during lunchtime to go sit with the less popular kids, specifically seeking out those who were being subjected to the cruelty of bullying. This simple, repeating act of adolescent empathy became the emotional anchor of her entire address, a testament to a foundational goodness that existed long before the bright lights of the professional football world ever found him. With her voice carrying a delicate balance of strength and tenderness, she confessed to the crowd how she deeply wished she had known someone exactly like him during her own challenging high school years, a time when she often felt isolated and disconnected from the conventional social hierarchies of youth. This poignant reflection struck a massive chord within the arena, bridging the gap between their two vastly different upbringings and uniting them in a shared understanding of protection, empathy, and mutual respect. The sheer length and narrative depth of the vows transformed the massive stadium into a remarkably intimate space, as if the 1,000 guests were merely eavesdropping on a private conversation between two souls who had finally found their perfect safe harbor in one another. The emotional impact of these words on the formidable athlete was immediate and utterly undeniable, shattering any expectations of the stoic, hardened demeanor often associated with elite sports champions. Witnesses close to the altar observed that he was visibly trembling with nerves as he prepared to speak, a striking contrast to the absolute confidence and unshakable composure he traditionally displays when leading his team down the field in front of millions of screaming football fans. As the 20-minute tribute unfolded, his composure gave way entirely to a profound display of raw emotion, with tears flowing freely as he listened to his partner articulate the deepest layers of his character. Multiple guests and media insiders later confirmed that it was actually the groom who displayed the most intense emotional vulnerability during this segment of the ceremony, defying the age-old wedding stereotype that typically places the burden of tears entirely upon the bride. He appeared completely overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment and the sheer sincerity of the love being directed toward him, maintaining a fierce focus on her eyes even as the tears blurred his vision, proving that the toughest competitors are often those most capable of deep, uninhibited feeling when confronted with genuine truth. When it came time for him to deliver his own promises, the intensity within the room reached its absolute peak, casting a spell of silence over the star-studded audience as he looked at the Grammy winner and made a solemn, unyielding vow to protect her forever. This specific promise of lifelong guardianship and unwavering support reportedly caused the bride herself to become tearful, breaking through her own composed exterior as she felt the immense weight and sincerity behind his words. Despite his visible nervousness and the staggering pressure of professing his deepest feelings in front of a stadium filled with legendary figures from the worlds of entertainment, journalism, and sports, he managed to keep it together, channeling the same determination that has defined his athletic career into the final delivery of his marital oaths. The interaction was described by those in the front rows as an extraordinary exchange of mutual protection, where one of the most powerful women in the entertainment industry and one of the most physically dominant athletes in the world completely stripped away their public armor to offer each other a simple, enduring sanctuary from the chaotic world outside. The sheer authenticity of this moment was later validated by some of the most respected voices in American media who were fortunate enough to be seated among the guests, offering a rare glimpse into the true nature of the event. Legendary broadcaster George Stephanopoulos, who has witnessed some of the most significant historical events of the modern era, spoke with immense admiration about the vows, describing them as everything anyone could possibly hope to experience in a lifetime. He noted that the exchange managed to be simultaneously serious and silly, deeply loving, and profoundly real, balancing the immense gravity of a lifelong commitment with the lighthearted, joyful humor that has always characterized the couple's public and private interactions. His longtime colleague, seasoned journalist Robin Roberts, echoed these sentiments, marveling at how a wedding of such astronomical proportions, held inside one of the most famous and massive arenas in the world, could somehow feel like a normal neighborhood gathering. She pointed out that despite the presence of global icons and billionaires, the core audience was comprised of high school friends, childhood neighbors, and immediate family members, creating an atmosphere that felt exactly like any traditional family wedding one might attend in a small hometown, proving that the couple's true priority was honoring their roots rather than staging a corporate publicity stunt. This delicate balance of humor and profound reality was further elevated by the unique choice of the ceremony's officiant, the beloved comedic icon Adam Sandler, whose involvement brought a perfect blend of high-energy entertainment and practical wisdom to the altar. Known for his ability to find deep human truth beneath layers of absurd comedy, he delivered a performance that was described by guests as absolutely phenomenal, blending his signature eccentric wit with genuinely moving insights on the nature of long-term partnership. Among his many pieces of advice to the newlyweds, one particular recommendation stood out for its simplicity and universal truth, a directive to kiss each other at every single opportunity they get as a foolproof method to avoid misunderstandings and keep the spark of their connection alive amidst their demanding schedules. This piece of wisdom was later highlighted by the groom's legendary football coach, Andy Reid, who remarked to major news networks that beneath the comedian's hilariously chaotic delivery lay a brilliant and deeply practical philosophy for a successful marriage, a sentiment that resonated strongly with everyone who understood the immense logistical pressures this high-profile couple will face as they navigate their shared future under the unyielding gaze of the global spotlight. The profound mixture of humor, tears, and raw sincerity that characterized the vows set a definitive tone for the remainder of the evening, transforming the historic spaces of Madison Square Garden into a living testament to the couple's thoughtful nature and deep appreciation for their inner circle. Recognizing ahead of time that their celebration would evoke an overwhelming emotional response from everyone in attendance, the newlyweds had prepared a remarkably touching and practical token of gratitude for their 1,000 guests. Each attendee was presented with an exquisitely crafted, custom-embroidered handkerchief, delicately marked with the precise location of Madison Square Garden and the historic date of the nuptials. This unique keepsake was intended specifically for guests to wipe away their tears as the emotional weight of the ceremony unfolded, serving as both a whimsical acknowledgement of the couple's notoriously sentimental hearts and a deeply personal memento of a night that would live forever in the annals of popular culture. The sheer thoughtfulness of this gesture perfectly mirrored the broader philosophy of the entire event, demonstrating that despite their stratospheric fame, the couple remained fiercely committed to making every individual in the room feel seen, valued, and intimately connected to their shared journey. As the formal ceremony concluded and the evening transitioned into a grand celebration of their newly solidified union, the true magnitude of the gathering became even more apparent through the extraordinary assemblage of global talent and cultural pioneers who had gathered to show their support. The star-studded audience read like a definitive catalog of modern artistic and athletic achievement, creating a vibrant tapestry of cross-disciplinary brilliance within the arena's beautifully transformed spaces. Close personal friends and longtime confidants like Selena Gomez and Gigi Hadid were visible among the front rows, their presence anchoring the event in years of shared personal history, private sisterhood, and mutual support through the tumultuous peaks of global stardom. Nearby, icon of entertainment Jennifer Lopez and acclaimed actor-director Bradley Cooper mingled with the crowd, bringing a classic Hollywood elegance to the New York night, while sports immortality was represented by legendary quarterback Tom Brady, who shared warm embraces with the groom's athletic peers and coaching staff. The eclectic energy of the music world was further highlighted by the presence of Machine Gun Kelly, whose distinct style added to the avant-garde atmosphere of a celebration that effortlessly bridged the gaps between elite athletics, chart-topping pop music, high fashion, and cinematic royalty. To fully appreciate the significance of this monumental evening, one must reflect deeply on the whirlwind journey that brought these two extraordinary figures to the altar, a narrative that officially began to accelerate in August of 2025 when they announced their engagement to a delighted global audience. For over a year leading up to that moment, their relationship had been the subject of unprecedented public fascination, a rare cultural phenomenon that successfully united two completely distinct and massive fan bases into a single, cohesive community of shared enthusiasm. From the early days of quiet stadium appearances and private getaways to the massive public celebrations of athletic championships and historic international concert tours, their bond had been forged under a level of media scrutiny that would have easily fractured a less resilient connection. Yet through it all, they managed to maintain a remarkably grounded approach to their partnership, prioritizing open communication, mutual respect, and an unshakable loyalty to one another that ultimately culminated in their decision to pledge their lives to each other in the heart of New York City. Their journey stands as a powerful modern proof that even in an era dominated by superficial interactions and fleeting digital trends, a deep, authentic, and transformative love can still find a way to flourish, grow, and inspire millions across the globe. The long-term impact of this union extends far beyond the immediate excitement of a star-studded wedding evening, capturing a unique moment in cultural history where the worlds of sports and entertainment became permanently intertwined through a genuine human bond. For the bride, this milestone represents a beautiful, harmonious chapter in a life that has been defined by an extraordinary ability to translate the complexities of human emotion into universal art, proving that her own story has finally found the triumphant, peaceful resolution she has so masterfully written about for decades. For the groom, his open display of deep vulnerability and emotional maturity at the altar serves as a powerful rewriting of the traditional narratives surrounding masculinity in professional sports, demonstrating that true strength lies not in the suppression of feeling, but in the courageous and uninhibited expression of love and devotion. As the final echoes of celebration began to fade into the quiet New York night and the guests departed with their embroidered handkerchiefs and unforgettable memories, the significance of what had transpired inside Madison Square Garden remained completely undeniable. This was not just a wedding of two global superstars, it was a profound, enduring celebration of character, kindness, and the timeless power of two people choosing to face the vast complexity of the world together, hand in hand.